Nigeria's mid-year security data highlights the deepening impact of criminal economies. Cattle rustling surged from just 4 incidents to 2019 to 58 in 2024, before easing slightly to 41 in the first half of this year, with the Northwest accounting for more than 70% of recorded cases. Meanwhile, Nigeria's kidnapping industry has grown into a multi-billion naira enterprise, with over 3,600 victims abducted between January and June 2025 alone, generating billions in ransom payments. Together, these crimes are reshaping Nigeria's security and economic outlook. Confidence Macharry, Senior Analyst at SBM Intelligence, joins me now to discuss this further. Good morning, Confidence.
Good morning.
Welcome to the show. So we see incidents that have risen incredibly from 4 in 2019 to 58 in 2024. In my head, I'm even thinking, was it a reporting issue in 2019? Because 4 even seems pretty low for that year. But I guess the question is, what is explaining this trend?
All right, so the first thing you have to understand is the model of using cattle rustling as a means to an end in Nigeria was first started by Boko Haram. So we saw this trend when they used to occupy places in the northeast, like Sambisa Forest, game reserves, like close to the Macharry game reserve in Bauchi and all of that. But when this offensive happened between the transition between the Jonathan administration and the Buhari administration, they pushed them a lot further, But then when the Nigerian government rested on its oars, they came back. But then what has happened between 2019 and now is that Boko Haram is not the only terror group in the space dealing with cattle rustling. We now have the Likurawa in the northwest, straddling between Sokoto and Kebbi states. That is their main MO. They are not really huge on kidnapping people for ransom as much as you come to expect Boko Haram or other Islamist groups. So cattle rustling is the main financing arm for the Likurawa sector. They are affiliated with the Islamic State in the Sahel province. So we have seen this, should I say, focus on that particular means to an end. And I think that they've borrowed a leaf from what's happening in the broader Sahel. We saw there is a tri-border area between Ghana, Burkina Faso, and Ivory Coast where it is a madhouse. So JNIM, the main Al-Qaeda Islamist affiliate in the Sahel, is heavily into it. And then we are also seeing volunteers who are hired by the Burkinabe military also being into the same thing. So in a nutshell, we're seeing that it is a model that has worked elsewhere, and many Islamist groups in Nigeria are also seeking to repeat it. So Boko Haram is continuing the same thing in the northeast. So more often than not, you get to hear about Boko Haram attacking some Fulani headsmen in Borno, in Yobe, and then stealing their cattle. So it's still an ongoing thing. So the reason why you're seeing a drop right now in H1 2025 is that over the past couple of months, we've seen increased drive by the Nigerian security forces to return the stolen cattle back to their owners. So there was a major operation in Naira, in Ogi local government area in Kebbi last year, towards the end of last year, where the Nigerian military in a sustained operation went after these Likurawa guys, and then they recovered a couple of cattle and they returned it to their owners. So it's just lead to this slide. But if you look at the numbers compared in the 50s compared to 41 compared to the 50s last year, I do think that if they rest on their oars, which they are likely to do, we're going to see a jump in the numbers.
Okay, you make an interesting point on security, because for this type of issue, and with I know the complexities around data gathering, these security gains, is it really real gains, or is it simply displacement of these activities into unreported zones?
Yeah, so there's the problem with reporting where sometimes we get information blackout. So like in the Northeast, for instance, since 2017, there was this information blackout that the previous chief of army staff then placed on in the region, where you could get news on terrorism in the region only from approved government sources. There is that black hole. There is also the issue of the displacement, like you're saying. Sometimes when you actually carry out an operation in one particular state, there is always a chance that if you sustain the operation there, things will come to a halt a bit. But if you move, because while you're doing the operation, the people you're trying to drive out are not necessarily staying away. They're moving to a different location, and so they're waiting for you. We saw this thing in 2021 when the military launched this counterinsurgency offensive in the northwest, where they locked about 5 states, and then they shut down telecommunications and everything. What the bandits simply did was they moved further down. Many of them came to Kwara. That inability to successfully quarantine the adjoining areas in the operational space has led to the security problems you're facing in Kwara today. Now you have the Mahmuda set, which is an offshoot of Boko Haram. You have some of the groups that are operating between the Kenji Lake area, the Kenji Dam area, as well as the Bogo Forest between Niger and Kwara State. So sometimes you have some of these things where a heavy focus on operations, government operations on one side tends to have an outstanding effect on the other side.
Indeed, so that's why there needs to be security coordination across the board. Let's look at the kidnapping report incidents, because I think we're running out of time. 3,620 victims alone in the first half of this year, compared to 2,418 in the first half of last year. This is a sharp rise. Is it worsening rural poverty? Is it just a lack of security coordination? What exactly is underpinning this? And you guys describe it as a pervasive industry.
Yeah, it could be all of them. So unlike other security challenges, which are sometimes confined to a particular geographic zone, one thing all of the purveyors of insecurity in Nigeria have in common is the use of kidnap for ransom as a tactic. And so you're seeing these numbers rise because, number one, it has been incentivized. So look at this thing, for instance. Last year, kidnappers made about 1 billion in ransom. They kidnapped about 7,200
1 billion naira.
1 billion naira in ransom. Fast forward to this year, they've made
almost 10 billion in the first half alone.
No, they've made the total ransom paid is about 2.56 billion.
Okay, 2.56.
So that's a jump.
Okay,
and they
so it's the demands that are.
So they kidnapped less people. They kidnapped about 4,300 people, as we could find in the report. That's a decent business optimization.
Yeah.
So
essentially, the bigger value sizes.
Yeah. So they've increased their ransom to make up for the weakening of the naira. And so they are now requesting more things, and they are now becoming desperate, I have to add. So in previous reports, during the report period, we find that sometimes if you parley with the kidnappers and you behave well, so to speak, they are likely to let you go, they're likely to listen to reason. But in this particular year, we found that in about 32 cases, people who pay ransom were killed. So nowadays, ransom is not a guarantee that you're going to return safely. So the kidnappers have gotten more desperate. They have now increased their demand, and then people are now struggling to meet it. So they have now understood, families of victims are now understood that you have to pay early, because the longer you keep dragging, the more the life of your colleague or the life of your family member is in danger. So these kidnappers have gotten on this psychological game, and then they're making a killing out of it. So
incredible.
So nowadays they don't really need to kidnap that many people to start spreading ransom around. They go for more targeted people, but the pattern of abducting whole communities in the Northwest has still not changed.
Yeah, it's unbelievable that we're talking about kidnapping for ransom as if it's an established, long-standing industry.
It's
the economics of it.
And
so I guess my question is, as we wrap up, because we need to go, I'm told, is what is the strategy really that can help tackle these things? I know you're more involved in the analysis and the data gathering, but based on some of the trends you're seeing, what pressure points do you think the authorities, the security agencies could really apply to dismantle this economy, very briefly? Yeah,
so I do not think that the current strategy of going after people is going to work. So the government has made quite a show of going after the formal financial networks. So in the sense that you cannot necessarily launder money or launder funds through the conventional financial networks, but they have not really turned their attention to the non-conventional networks. So there are markets in which these places, like we talk about cattle rustling, where these things are sold and everything, but the formal and informal channels by which these people receive ransoms, the government has not really been that keen. So there's something that I think if somebody in government said, I'm trying to remember the name, where they said, I think it was the former Minister of Digital Economy. He said, we instituted the NIN SIM linkage to make crime fighting easier. So when you have a police case where somebody was kidnapped, all you just have to do is get the phone number by which the kidnapper reached out to you.
And find a way to track it.
Find a way to track it. But we find that the police is not really utilizing this information. That was what Pantami said. The police is not utilizing this. So they prefer the crude method of having to talk to the kidnappers and then go after them. All of these things, in 2025, they cannot give you the kind of results you're looking for. So the more we are much more invested in technology, the more we are invested in police who will be able to do this thing, I think we are much likelier to see better results than we are having today.
In fact, thank you very much, Confidence Macharry of SBM Intelligence. Great insights and analysis.
Thank you for having me.